Hey y'all, this is Dawn with Double D Chicks and Stuff Homestead. Chad and I are getting ready to cut up some of the venison that we got and get it processed for the dogs for their meals. Just wanted to let you watch, see what's going on.
All right, everybody, back in the kitchen. As you can see, we're doing this in the kitchen because my processing room ain't finished yet. I hadn't even started on it, really. A couple things we'll talk to you about when cutting up this meat. Things that I suggest from years' experience. Wear a cut glove. Didn't happen with a knife, but I did lose a finger. So this cut glove won't protect you from the sharp end of a good knife, but it will keep you from cutting through it. Good knife, it's a Bubba knife. You can get them in any Ace Hardware. They make several different kinds. That's the 9-inch blade. It's very sharp. It does a good job.
Very sharp.
Very sharp. When you're cutting up this meat, and if you're doing it for yourself or for whatever, two things that I've learned. I do not have an industrial meat grinder, so I use a KitchenAid. It's a little slower, but it does a good job. But it puts a strain on it if you don't cut the white meat out of it. So I try to get all the white meat and the stringy stuff. The back straps, the tenderloins, and part of the ham are the best for grinding. The rest of it has got stringy and a lot of tendons and stuff in it, and it doesn't make a good burger, so to speak, and that's basically what we're making. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail. A lot of y'all know how to do all this. Just kind of adding it in with whatever. My wife says keep it short, keep people's attention, so that's what I'm gonna do. So just you're not going to get all the white meat out of it, but for your best grind, you try to cut the majority out of it. And you just want to cut it up into small pieces. And for all you deer hunters out there that are biting your lip because I'm cutting up a good piece of backstrap, it's just the way it is.
So what are you doing with the leftovers that we discard?
The leftovers, such as this and stringy stuff, the fat, if it's a real big deer, usually your bigger bucks have got a lot of fat on the roast. Try to cut that deer fat is not like beef fat. It's not real good for dogs to eat that, a lot of it. So I cut it off and we feed it to the chickens along with all the other stuff, the leftovers go to the chickens. All right, so as I was saying, get the stringy stuff off. Makes for better grind. These deer are does. Like I said earlier, and the other thing, we're shooting these deer for declamation permits. So all this meat's does, usually average 80 to 120 pounds around here. But as I was saying, with the bigger bucks during deer season, bigger deer or older does with a lot of fat on, you need to cut that fat off as much as possible. I just don't feel like that venison fat is as good as beef fat as far as feeding it to your dogs. And also, keep the hearts. You can keep the livers. I wouldn't suggest feeding the kidneys to them. And I tried the livers at first, but the liver's super, super bloody. So once you cut it up and it sits, it really bloods everything up. I'm not trying to gross anybody out, but I haven't been using livers anymore. It's good for them to have a little bit. You can't eat too much of it, but the heart is a muscle, so I try to use as much of everything as possible.
Yeah, the liver will tear their stomach up quick.
Yeah, it's super, super rich.
The dogs are hovering like vultures right now because a lot of times he'll give them some scraps while he's cutting up.
And there is a valve in the heart, and it's not a bone, it's some kind of hard cartilage. I usually just cut around all that and don't give it to the dogs. I'll show you a piece of this. This is the way we do this. We process a deer on the hoof. In other words, I used to, a long time ago when the kids was home, you know, I'd cut quarter deer up, soak them, hang them, soak them, let all the blood get out of it. But we're not doing that anymore. It's too time consuming for the amount of deer that we're processing. So we hang them up like you normally do a deer, pull the skin down to the neck, to the ears, cut the shoulders off, cut the back straps out, cut the ham off, pop the groin and reach in and cut the tenderloins out. If it's a decent deer, that's good meat in there. And the heart's usually right there, we can cut the heart out. So you got a whole carcass intact. Skin, head, guts, everything goes into the gut bucket, and we got a place that we dump the guts and we shoot coyotes to keep the coyote population down. So we bait the coyotes with the deer. So everything's serving a purpose. Like I said, I cut up the back strap, and as you can see, it's real lean. Everybody knows that the deer hunt's real lean. But if you notice with this ham, it's got a lot of tendons in it. So what I do is I break it down in about 3 parts, like that, like that, and then you try to get the stringy meat like this right here. You want to cut all that out. That's it won't hurt the dogs and it won't hurt humans, but it just if you cook it for yourself or if you grind it up for hamburger, it's really rough on trying to eat it, and it's rough on your grinder.
Our grinder is a combination of my mixer, and we bought a part to put on it, so we don't want to tear up my mixer.
You just want to cut it. If you got an industrial grinder, a big one, which I don't have one, you might be able to cut this meat up bigger. But it's easier for me to go ahead and cut it up smaller to run it through that mixer versus trying to force it down in there with big pieces. We're gonna get all this meat cut up. I know you don't want to sit here and watch me for an hour cut meat up. So we're gonna get all this meat cut up. I'm gonna get it separated for the grind and then for the small parts, and we'll be back with you shortly. All right, so we got all the meat cut up. We got the meat that we're gonna grind. We got the carrots. That's the trimmings, the stringy stuff that I was telling you about. It just depends on how clean you want your meat. I preferably like mine pretty clean, but we're gonna show you how this thing works. Alright, it's kind of a slow process, but it's coming along. You just want to add you a couple handfuls of meat, a few carrots. Alternating back and forth. If you got sweet potatoes, which we don't have any yet, or your broccoli stalk, just kind of alternating back and forth. Then once it's all done, you just kind of run through it, stir it all up. I like to put the dehydrated peas in after I grind everything up, because the dehydrated peas tend to soak up the moisture a little bit.
All right, so while Chad's grinding up the meat, he wanted me to let you know one of the reasons why we've switched to doing the raw diet for the dogs is a lot of the processed dog foods have processed starches and such as that, and the veterinarians are saying that that is one of the reasons and one of the things that are causing dogs to get cancer. We've already had a male Doberman, first one we got, he had gotten cancer, and it was like an octopus. It entwined itself in through his internal organs, and when we found out, he had passed away within a matter of weeks, and he was never sick. The next one we had, he ended up getting into a fight with his brother, backed up between a chair, and just broke his leg off, and we rushed him to the vet. They took his leg off, said that he had cancer, thought they got everything, but we were still feeding him the processed dog food as well, and he ended up dying about, what, 6 months later? A year later, okay. And then now Tippet, the one that I've put pictures of on here, she ended up having a spot on her leg that swelled up, and we took her to the vet. They said it was a tumor attached itself to her leg, so they took the weight-bearing bone, non-weight-bearing bone out, and thought that they got everything. She was still eating the processed food, and this isn't cheap food. We spent $55 a week on a bag of dog food that was supposed to be, you know, good for them, no corn and such as this, but she ended up having another spot come back, and took her back to the vet, and it had swollen her leg up to about the size of my arm through here. So took her back, they had to remove her leg, and they felt as though they had gotten everything. And that's when we had talked and decided, after we had researched a little bit throughout the years, and we decided to do the raw diet. So we're hoping this is going to help correct anything that is causing the cancer, even though Dobermans are more susceptible to getting cancer because of their bloodline and such. This is one of the reasons why we are switching. We're hoping that's going to help her, so she doesn't have to go through this. This is kind of time consuming. We need to really get a larger meat grinder. So when this is all finished, then we'll come back and show you what was completed.
All right, so here we have the finished product. I don't know, 15, 20 pounds of ground vegetable and meat. We put it in a gallon Ziploc bag. Put as much as you can, and then try to squeeze all the air out of it, so it'll lay in the freezer flat like this. And with these 3 dogs, I only feed this to them in the morning. Usually lasts, what, week and a half, a bag.
Yeah, something like that.
So it'll carry them for a little while. That's it on this part. Later on, a few hours, we're gonna do the part with the evening meal. I'll show you how to feed them on the evening meal. Till then, we'll see you in a little bit.